The Perils of Excessive Kindness, a Stoic's Guide to Benevolence and Boundaries. In a world often characterized by self-interest and a scarcity mindset, the virtue of kindness shines as a beacon of hope, illuminating the path towards empathy, compassion, and genuine human connection. Seneca, a prominent figure in the Stoic tradition, championed the concept of philanthropy, a profound love for humanity that fuels acts of generosity and goodwill. He eloquently argued that kindness not only benefits the recipients of our benevolence but also bestows upon the giver a sense of inner tranquility and profound happiness. Kindness fosters stronger communities, promotes mutual respect, and creates a more just and equitable world. It is the glue that binds us together, reminding us of our shared humanity and our responsibility to care for one another. However, like any virtue, kindness can be taken to an extreme, transforming from a wellspring of positive energy into a source of potential harm, both for the giver and the receiver. Just as a plant needs the right amount of sunlight and water to thrive, kindness requires moderation and discernment to flourish without becoming detrimental. Excessive kindness, often born from a deep-seated desire to please others or a fear of rejection, can lead to self-sacrifice, boundary erosion, and ultimately, resentment. It can create an imbalance in relationships, fostering dependency and hindering the growth and independence of those we seek to help. Furthermore, in a world that doesn't always reciprocate generosity, indiscriminate acts of kindness can deplete our emotional, financial, and energetic resources, leaving us feeling drained, frustrated, and vulnerable to exploitation. The challenge, then, lies in finding the delicate balance between genuine compassion and healthy self-preservation, between extending a helping hand and safeguarding our own well-being. This is where the wisdom of Stoicism, with its emphasis on reason, virtue, and self-control, offers invaluable guidance. Stoicism doesn't advocate for indifference or callousness, rather, it provides a framework for practicing kindness with discernment, ensuring that our benevolence is both effective and sustainable. By understanding the potential pitfalls of excessive kindness and adopting Stoic strategies for setting boundaries and prioritizing our own responsibilities, we can cultivate a more balanced and fulfilling approach to generosity, enriching our lives and the lives of those around us. Think of it as navigating a ship through treacherous waters. Kindness is the wind that fills our sails, propelling us forward towards our destination. But without a rudder of reason and boundaries, we risk being blown off course, crashing against the rocks of self-sacrifice and resentment. Stoicism provides the rudder, helping us to steer our ship with wisdom and navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater clarity and intention. In today's world, where acts of kindness are often viewed with suspicion or seen as opportunities for exploitation, the Stoic approach to benevolence is more relevant than ever. By practicing kindness with discernment and setting healthy boundaries, we can protect ourselves from being taken advantage of while still making a positive impact on the world. Seneca believed in the concept of philanthropy, which means love of humanity. He stressed that kindness and benevolence towards others are essential virtues. He argued that being kind not only benefits others but also brings inner tranquility and happiness to the individual. But like anything else, too much of a good thing can turn sour, and that's what we want to discuss today. Kindness, when taken to an extreme, can actually harm both the giver and the receiver. We live in a world where we don't always receive what we give. Seneca's espousal of philanthropy, the profound love of humanity, highlights the intrinsic value of kindness and benevolence as cornerstones of a virtuous existence. He astutely observed that acts of kindness not only uplift the recipients but also bestow upon the giver a sense of inner peace and genuine happiness, fostering a harmonious connection between individuals and strengthening the fabric of society. However, even the noblest of virtues, when taken to an extreme and devoid of proper moderation, can transform into a source of potential harm, both for the giver and the receiver. This paradox underscores the importance of balance and discernment in our approach to generosity. Excessive kindness, often fueled by a deep-seated need for approval or a fear of conflict, can lead to self-sacrifice, boundary erosion, and ultimately, resentment. It can create an unhealthy dynamic in relationships, fostering dependency and hindering the growth and independence of those we seek to help. The world, unfortunately, is not always a mirror reflecting our generosity. We don't always receive what we give, and it's filled with individuals who may not appreciate or reciprocate our kindness. It's a world that often rewards self-interest and cunning, leaving those who are overly kind vulnerable to exploitation and disappointment. Think of the charitable organization that pours all its resources into a single project without proper planning or oversight. While their intentions may be noble, their lack of discernment can lead to mismanagement, waste, and ultimately, failure to achieve their intended goals. Similarly, an individual who constantly sacrifices their own needs to please others may find themselves feeling drained, resentful, and taken advantage of. This is not to say that we should abandon kindness altogether, but rather that we should approach it with wisdom and discernment, ensuring that our benevolence is both effective and sustainable. Because it's not full of generous people who witness how they deplete their financial and energetic resources by giving indiscriminately. Today I will reveal the 7 things that happen when you are too kind, and I will present 4 Stoic strategies to prevent people from taking advantage of your kindness. 1. You will have unrealistic expectations of people. The Stoics emphasize the need to accept circumstances as they are and not base our happiness on the actions of others by giving without expecting much in. One of the most significant pitfalls of excessive kindness is the development of unrealistic expectations of others. We become accustomed to giving without expecting anything in return, but deep down, consciously or unconsciously, we harbor a hope that others will reciprocate our generosity in kind. When this expectation is not met, as is often the case in a world that doesn't always value reciprocity, we experience disappointment, frustration, and even resentment. The Stoics, with their emphasis on accepting circumstances as they are and not basing our happiness on the actions of others, offer a valuable antidote to this tendency. By practicing emotional detachment and giving without demanding or expecting specific outcomes, we can mitigate the risk of disappointment and cultivate a more peaceful and resilient state of mind. However, this is easier said than done. We are rarely entirely selfless in our giving. Even when we try to act out of pure compassion, there is often a subtle expectation that our kindness will be recognized and appreciated, that it will create a positive ripple effect in the world. When this doesn't happen, when our generosity is met with indifference or even ingratitude, it can be difficult to maintain our equanimity. Think of the parent who constantly sacrifices their own needs and desires to provide for their children, only to be met with disrespect and rebellion. They may feel hurt, angry, and disillusioned, questioning the value of their sacrifices. The Stoics would advise such a parent to accept their children for who they are, to focus on their own actions and values, and to find fulfillment in their own lives, regardless of their children's behavior. This doesn't mean that they should stop loving or supporting their children, but rather that they should detach their happiness from their children's choices and actions. You avoid disappointment and practice emotional detachment. We are rarely entirely selfless in our giving. Consciously or unconsciously, when we give our all, we expect others to do the same. When it's you who need something significant, you've accustomed people to do everything for themselves, assuming you can handle everything in their lives and your own, especially in your own life. Because otherwise, why would you be taking on others' responsibilities? Your expectations of reciprocity won't be met and you'll end. In the realm of excessive kindness, a subtle but insidious pattern emerges, the expectation of reciprocity. While genuine altruism exists, human nature often intertwines giving with an unconscious desire for return. We give our all, pouring our time, energy, and resources into others, and a part of us expects them to do the same when we find ourselves in need. This expectation, however, is often shattered, leading to disappointment and frustration. Why? Because excessive kindness inadvertently creates a self-perpetuating cycle of dependence. By consistently offering assistance and taking on responsibilities that rightfully belong to others, we inadvertently accustom them to relying on us. They become accustomed to handling everything themselves, assuming that we can always manage things, not only their own lives but theirs as well, especially in our own lives, because otherwise, why would we be taking on others' responsibilities? As a result, when we finally require support, our expectations of reciprocity are often unmet, leaving us feeling irritable, tired, frustrated, and profoundly disappointed. The Stoic perspective, however, offers a more balanced and realistic approach. By embracing equanimity, we acknowledge that others are not failing us, they are simply prioritizing their own responsibilities, just as we should be doing. This shift in perspective allows us to relinquish the burden of unrealistic expectations and cultivate a more accepting and compassionate view of human nature. Think of the employee who always volunteers to take on extra tasks, helping their colleagues meet deadlines and resolve problems. They may expect their colleagues to reciprocate when they are facing a personal crisis, but they may find that their colleagues are too busy or unwilling to offer the same level of support. This can lead to feelings of resentment and burnout. The Stoics would advise such an employee to set boundaries, to prioritize their own responsibilities, and to offer assistance only when it is truly needed and when it doesn't compromise their own well-being. Feeling irritable, tired, frustrated, and disappointed. However, if we approach this with equanimity, people aren't failing you, they're simply doing what you should also be doing, taking care of their own responsibilities. Two people will only expect you to give. It's essential to remember that true value comes from acting in accordance with virtue and reason, not just meeting others' expectations. Practicing moderation and giving in a balanced way allows you to maintain control over your own actions and avoid habits that harm your emotional. Excessive kindness can inadvertently train people to expect your constant generosity, creating a dynamic where you are viewed as a perpetual resource rather than an individual with your own needs and boundaries. When you consistently give without setting limits, you inadvertently place others in their comfort zone, fostering a sense of entitlement and diminishing their own sense of responsibility. They fail to fulfill their own obligations, expecting you to step in and handle everything for them, blurring the lines between their lives and yours. The problem is that you haven't set boundaries. You've become accustomed to giving all the time, so people expect you to keep doing it. This dynamic can be incredibly draining, leaving you feeling used, unappreciated, and resentful. It's essential to remember that true value comes from acting in accordance with virtue and reason, not simply meeting the expectations of others. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of self-control, self-respect, and the pursuit of inner excellence. Practicing moderation and giving in a balanced way allows you to maintain control over your own actions and avoid habits that harm your emotional well-being. It's about recognizing that you have a responsibility to care for yourself, to protect your own resources, and to set limits on what you are willing to give to others. Think of the small business owner who constantly offers discounts and free services to their customers, fearing that they will lose business if they don't. While this may attract customers in the short term, it can also erode their profit margins and create a perception that their services are not worth the full price. They may find that customers only come to them when they are offering a discount, and they may struggle to attract customers who are willing to pay full price. The Stoics would advise such a business owner to value their own services, to set fair prices, and to focus on providing high-quality products and customer service. This will attract customers who appreciate their value and are willing to pay for it, creating a sustainable and profitable business. Well-being. You've become accustomed to giving all the time, so people expect you to keep doing it. You put them in their comfort zone and they fail to fulfill their obligations because they expect you to do everything for both their lives and yours. The problem is that you haven't set boundaries. People start to see you as weak, the opposite of a leader. When you finally start using the word no, they may begin to respect you, something that wouldn't have happened before. 3. Your priorities will be trampled. The Stoics emphasize the importance of excessive kindness, without the safeguard of healthy boundaries, can inadvertently lead to a diminished perception of your own strength and competence. People start to see you as weak, the opposite of a leader, as someone who is easily manipulated or taken advantage of. This is not to say that kindness is inherently a sign of weakness, but rather that excessive kindness, without the balance of self-respect and assertiveness, can project an image of vulnerability. When you constantly prioritize the needs of others over your own, you send a signal that your own time, energy, and resources are not valuable. This can invite others to take advantage of your generosity, making unreasonable requests and expecting you to accommodate their needs without considering your own. Ironically, it is often only when you finally begin to assert yourself, when you start using the word no and setting clear boundaries, that others may begin to respect you, something that wouldn't have happened before. This highlights the importance of self-respect and assertiveness in maintaining healthy relationships and preventing exploitation. It's about recognizing that your own needs and values are just as important as those of others, and that you have a right to protect your own time, energy, and resources. Think of the project manager who is always accommodating the requests of their team members, sacrificing their own time and energy to ensure that everyone is happy. While this may create a positive work environment in the short term, it can also lead to burnout, resentment, and a perception that they are not a strong leader. The Stoics would advise such a project manager to set clear expectations, to delegate tasks effectively, and to prioritize their own responsibilities. This will not only protect their own well-being but also create a more efficient and productive team. Living in accordance with reason and virtue, setting boundaries and prioritizing our own responsibilities. If you're giving yourself entirely to others' priorities, you might be avoiding something within yourself that causes pain and fear. If your emotions indicate discomfort when dedicating time and energy to something that isn't your obligation, it's essential not to deceive yourself and recognize how this assistance affects your well-being. 4. Excessive kindness, often driven by a deep-seated need to please others or a fear of rejection, can lead to a trampling of your own priorities and a neglect of your own responsibilities. When you consistently prioritize the needs and desires of others over your own, you create a situation where your own goals and aspirations are constantly sidelined. This can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and a sense of unfulfillment. The Stoics emphasize the importance of living in accordance with reason and virtue, setting boundaries, and prioritizing our own responsibilities. They believe that true happiness comes from within, from cultivating inner excellence and living in alignment with our values. If you're giving yourself entirely to others' priorities, you might be avoiding something within yourself that causes pain and fear. Excessive kindness can be a form of escapism, a way to distract ourselves from our own problems and anxieties by focusing on the needs of others. It can also be a way to seek validation and approval, hoping that by pleasing others, we will earn their love and acceptance. If your emotions indicate discomfort when dedicating time and energy to something that isn't your obligation, it's essential not to deceive yourself and recognize how this assistance affects your well-being. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-awareness and self-reflection. We must be honest with ourselves about our motivations and our feelings, and we must be willing to confront the difficult truths about ourselves. Think of the aspiring artist who spends all their time helping their friends with their projects, neglecting their own artistic development. They may feel a sense of satisfaction from helping others, but they are also avoiding the challenges and uncertainties of pursuing their own dreams. The Stoics would advise such an artist to set boundaries, to prioritize their own artistic pursuits, and to recognize that their own happiness and fulfillment are just as important as those of their friends. You will be seen as weak and treated as such. Stoicism encourages us to cultivate inner strength and self-control, set boundaries and practice self-discipline. It shows that we are committed to our responsibilities and values, gaining respect instead of being perceived as weak. If you're too helpful, you may end up seen as someone who doesn't set limits, leading people to treat you as weak. Establishing boundaries is essential for maintaining healthy relationships. 5. You will attract only needy people, not those willing to give. Through historical discernment we can. Excessive kindness, without the counterbalance of self-respect and assertiveness, can lead to a perception of weakness, inviting others to treat you accordingly. This is not to suggest that kindness is inherently weak, but rather that excessive kindness, without the strength to set boundaries and prioritize your own needs, can project an image of vulnerability and a lack of self-worth. Stoicism encourages us to cultivate inner strength and self-control, setting boundaries and practicing self-discipline. It shows that we are committed to our responsibilities and values, gaining respect instead of being perceived as weak. If you're too helpful, you may end up seen as someone who doesn't set limits, leading people to treat you as weak. Establishing boundaries is essential for maintaining healthy relationships and preventing exploitation. It's about communicating your needs and expectations clearly and respectfully, and being willing to enforce those boundaries when they are crossed. It's also about valuing your own time and energy, and refusing to allow others to take advantage of your generosity. Think of the customer service representative who is always going above and beyond to please their customers, even when they are being rude or unreasonable. While this may seem like good customer service in the short term, it can also lead to burnout, resentment, and a perception that they are easily taken advantage of. The Stoics would advise such a representative to set boundaries, to treat customers with respect, but also to refuse to tolerate abuse or unreasonable demands. This will not only protect their own well-being but also create a more professional and respectful work environment. Cultivate authentic and mutually beneficial relationships. People who come into our lives or interact with us respond to our energies. If we're vibrating at a low frequency, we attract negative and pessimistic people. When we give indiscriminately, we lose so much energy that we start vibrating at a lower frequency, attracting needy and opportunistic people. It's important to recognize relationships that benefit us and avoid expending our energies on unproductive situations. 6. Excessive kindness, without the discernment to identify and cultivate mutually beneficial relationships, can inadvertently attract needy and opportunistic individuals, creating a dynamic of imbalance and potential exploitation. People who come into our lives, or interact with us, respond to our energies. If we're vibrating at a low frequency, we attract negative and pessimistic people. When we give indiscriminately, we lose so much energy that we start vibrating at a lower frequency, attracting needy and opportunistic people. It's important to recognize relationships that benefit us, and avoid expanding our energies on unproductive situations. This principle highlights the importance of self-awareness, intuition, and the ability to recognize healthy relationship patterns. It's about understanding that not all relationships are created equal, and that some relationships can be more draining than fulfilling. It's also about recognizing that we have a right to choose who we spend our time with, and to prioritize relationships that are mutually supportive and beneficial. Think of the person who is always lending money to their friends, but never receives anything in return. They may find that they are constantly surrounded by people who are asking for favors, but rarely offering any support in return. The Stoics would advise such a person to be more discerning about who they lend money to, and to prioritize relationships with people who are responsible, reliable, and willing to reciprocate their generosity. You may fall into the addiction trap. Stoicism promotes moderation and self-control. Practicing self-discipline in generosity helps us avoid addictive patterns and maintain a healthy relationship with our actions and decisions. When neediness becomes a part of our life, the need grows, potentially leading to addiction. It's crucial to listen to those who care about us and recognize when we're falling into vicious patterns. 7. Excessive kindness, driven by a deep-seated need to please others or a fear of rejection, can inadvertently become an addiction, a compulsive behavior that undermines our well-being and diminishes our freedom. Stoicism promotes moderation and self-control. Practicing self-discipline in generosity helps us avoid addictive patterns and maintain a healthy relationship with our actions and decisions. When neediness becomes a part of our life, the need grows, potentially leading to addiction. It's crucial to listen to those who care about us and recognize when we're falling into vicious patterns. This principle highlights the importance of self-awareness, self-compassion, and the ability to recognize and break free from unhealthy patterns of behavior. It's about understanding that addiction is not just about substances, but also about behaviors, and that excessive kindness can be a form of behavioral addiction. It's also about recognizing that we don't have to go it alone, and that there are people who care about us and want to help us break free from these patterns. Think of the person who is always volunteering for extra work, even when they are already overwhelmed and exhausted. They may feel a sense of satisfaction from helping others, but they are also neglecting their own needs and potentially jeopardizing their health and well-being. The Stoics would advise such a person to set boundaries, to prioritize their own health and well-being, and to seek help from a therapist or counselor if they are struggling to break free from this pattern. You will raise suspicion. Stoicism encourages us to act virtuously regardless of how others perceive us. By focusing on living in harmony with our principles and values, we build a genuine reputation resistant to suspicion. If you're genuinely kind in a world where true kindness isn't common, you might raise suspicion and admiration. People may start questioning your hidden intentions. Now let's look at the 4 Stoic strategies to avoid being taken advantage of. 1. Listen to your feelings. Pay attention to your emotions and feelings to identify if you're giving too much. Excessive kindness, particularly in a world where genuine acts of generosity are becoming increasingly rare, can ironically raise suspicions and invite scrutiny from others. Stoicism encourages us to act virtuously regardless of how others perceive us. By focusing on living in harmony with our principles and values, we build a genuine reputation resistant to suspicion. If you're genuinely kind in a world where true kindness isn't common, you might raise suspicion and admiration. People may start questioning your hidden intentions. This is not to say that we should abandon kindness altogether, but rather that we should be aware of the potential for misinterpretation and strive to act with transparency and authenticity. It's about understanding that not everyone will appreciate our generosity, and that some people may even suspect that we have ulterior motives. It's also about recognizing that we cannot control how others perceive us, and that our focus should be on living in accordance with our own values, regardless of what others may think. Think of the politician who donates a large sum of money to a charity. While this may be a genuine act of generosity, it may also be viewed with suspicion, with people questioning whether they are doing it for political gain. The Stoics would advise such a politician to act with transparency and authenticity, to be honest about their motivations, and to focus on the positive impact they are having on the community. And becoming emotionally drained. If something that isn't your obligation causes discomfort, it's important to acknowledge it too. Don't be afraid of the word no. Recognize that your time and energy are valuable and should be used consciously. Saying no in situations where you feel overwhelmed or the request isn't fair is a way to exercise self-control. 3. Reserve time and space for yourself. Set aside time and space to take care of yourself. Do what you enjoy and recharge your energy. If someone requests your collaboration during this time, to navigate the complexities of kindness and avoid the pitfalls of excessive generosity, Stoicism offers 4 practical strategies. First, listen to your feelings. Pay attention to your emotions and feelings to identify if you're giving too much and becoming emotionally drained. If something that isn't your obligation causes discomfort, it's important to acknowledge it. Our emotions serve as valuable indicators of our well-being, alerting us when we are pushing ourselves too hard or compromising our own needs. Second, don't be afraid of the word no. Recognize that your time and energy are valuable and should be used consciously. Saying no in situations where you feel overwhelmed or the request isn't fair is a way to exercise self-control. The ability to say no is a crucial skill for setting boundaries and protecting your own well-being. Third, reserve time and space for yourself. Set aside time and space to take care of yourself, do what you enjoy, and recharge your energy. If someone requests your collaboration during this time, they should respect your needs. Self-care is not selfish, it is essential for maintaining our physical, mental, and emotional health, allowing us to be more effective and compassionate in our interactions with others. Should respect your needs. 4. Identify energy vampires and distance yourself. Recognize relationships that drain your energy and don't positively contribute to your life. Distancing yourself from these people is a way to care for your well-being and apply self-control in your relationships. Remember that finding a balance between prioritizing others and yourself is crucial, and the word no can be your ally. Epictetus emphasized the idea that we should focus on what is within our control and not be distressed by what is. Fourth, identify energy vampires and distance yourself. Recognize relationships that drain your energy and don't positively contribute to your life. Distancing yourself from these people is a way to care for your well-being and apply self-control in your relationships. Not all relationships are created equal, and some relationships can be more draining than fulfilling. By identifying and distancing ourselves from these energy vampires, we can protect our own well-being and create space for more positive and supportive relationships. Remember that finding a balance between prioritizing others and yourself is crucial, and the word no can be your ally in achieving this balance. These strategies, rooted in Stoic principles of self-awareness, self-control, and living in accordance with virtue, provide a practical framework for navigating the complexities of kindness and ensuring that our generosity is both effective and sustainable. Epictetus, a prominent Stoic philosopher, emphasized the importance of focusing on what is within our control, and not being distressed by what is beyond it. This principle is particularly relevant to the practice of kindness. We cannot control how others will respond to our generosity, but we can control our own actions and intentions. By focusing on acting virtuously, regardless of the outcome, we can cultivate inner peace and avoid the pitfalls of excessive kindness. Beyond it, he believed that being kind and compassionate to others is a choice within our control and a fundamental part of living a virtuous life. Kindness for him was a way to align with nature and the Stoic ideal, and the Roman emperor and a Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius stressed the importance of practicing kindness and empathy. In his Meditations, he argued that by treating others with fairness, compassion, and understanding, we contribute to the well-being of the whole human community and in turn enhance our own moral character. Epictetus believed that being kind and compassionate to others is a choice within our control and a fundamental part of living a virtuous life. Kindness, for him, was a way to align with nature and the Stoic ideal. This perspective highlights the importance of intention in our acts of kindness. We should strive to act with genuine compassion and a desire to help others, not with a hidden agenda or an expectation of reward. By focusing on our own virtuous intentions, we can avoid the pitfalls of excessive kindness and cultivate a more authentic and fulfilling approach to generosity. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius also stressed the importance of practicing kindness and empathy in his Meditations. He argued that by treating others with fairness, compassion, and understanding, we contribute to the well-being of the whole human community, and in turn, enhance our own moral character. This emphasis on the interconnectedness of all beings reinforces the Stoic belief that our actions have ripple effects, impacting not only ourselves but also those around us. By choosing kindness, we are not only benefiting others but also contributing to a more positive and harmonious world. We saw that kindness is generally considered a virtuous and positive quality. It is possible to be too kind to the point where it may have disadvantages or negative consequences. Let me know in the comments what you think about being too kind. Until next time. In conclusion, while kindness is generally considered a virtuous and positive quality, it is possible to be too kind, to the point where it may have disadvantages or negative consequences. Excessive kindness, without the balance of self-respect, assertiveness, and discernment, can lead to unrealistic expectations, exploitation, trampling of priorities, a perception of weakness, the attraction of needy people, an addictive pattern, and even raise suspicions. However, by adopting the Stoic strategies of listening to your feelings, setting boundaries, reserving time and space for yourself, and identifying energy vampires, we can navigate the complexities of kindness and ensure that our generosity is both effective and sustainable. The key is to find a balance between prioritizing others and yourself, to act with compassion and empathy, but also to protect your own well-being and pursue your own goals. In essence, the Stoic approach to kindness is not about suppressing our natural inclination to help others, but about cultivating a more mindful and balanced approach to generosity. It's about recognizing the potential pitfalls of excessive kindness and adopting practical strategies to prevent exploitation and maintain our own well-being. By listening to our feelings, setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care, and discerning healthy relationships, we can ensure that our kindness is both effective and sustainable, enriching our lives and the lives of those around us. As we navigate the complexities of human relationships, let us remember the wisdom of the ancient Stoics, who emphasized the importance of reason, virtue, and self-control. Let us strive to act with compassion and empathy, but also with discernment and self-respect, creating a world where kindness is not a source of vulnerability but a powerful force for positive change. The core takeaways from this exploration are the importance of setting boundaries, practicing self-care, discerning healthy relationships, and acting with virtuous intentions. By internalizing these principles, we can navigate the complexities of kindness with greater wisdom and grace, avoiding the pitfalls of excessive generosity and creating a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Embrace the Stoic path, and unlock your full potential for kindness, compassion, and self-mastery.